If I'm understanding correctly, Francisco, you're saying that the approach towards getting back the hostages shouldn't be through negotiations. How should the Israeli government try to get them through operations, through getting them militarily speaking? Like, what would have been the appropriate
If the
way?
Israeli government had been very worried about hostages and also worried about getting them back, it would have behaved completely differently from the way it behaved. So the first thing the Israeli government should have done is protect the Gaza border. The Gaza border was obviously unprotected. Thousands of Hamas terrorists just rolled across the Gaza fence and started murdering Israeli civilians, and practically nobody came to help them. Right, the Israeli army and the police, everybody, they were all absent for hours and hours and hours and hours on end, while these people were playing with the bodies of Israeli Jewish civilians, toying with their bodies, torturing them to death. No presence of the Israeli authorities for hours. So what would the Israeli government have done if they cared about the lives of these hostages? Well, first of all, even if I were to overlook the fact that the Gaza border was unprotected and that no soldiers were nearby to react to an emergency, right? Even if I overlooked those two very suspicious facts and chalk that up to just, negligence or stupidity or some halfway innocent explanation, there would still be the problem of explaining why no helicopters or airplanes flew to where those hostages were being murdered slowly, tortured to death during all those hours, because that didn't happen. And the next question is, why weren't any helicopters or planes flown to the no man's land between the last kibbutz and the Gaza fence, right? And why didn't they station those? They could have bombed the trench to keep the Gaza terrorists from coming back to Gaza, and they could have faced them and prevented them from taking the hostages in. That was not even attempted. So what should the government do? Well, the government should try to get the hostages, and of course militarily is the right way to do that. Because if you negotiate for the hostages' lives, then what you are doing is you're collaborating with Yahya Sinwar. You become a collaborator with Yahya Sinwar, because that was Yahya Sinwar's plan all along. It's obvious. It's obvious. These people understand what's going to happen. If they take hostages, the Israeli public is going to be divided down the middle over the question of whether to negotiate or not to negotiate. He knows that's going to happen, and that's why he did it. Because he wanted that fight. So if you negotiate, you play right into his hands, and you can't really trust that you're going to get what you're negotiating for, because these people are anti-Semitic, genocidal terrorists whose ultimate goal is to see every last living Jew destroyed. So clearly the best thing that Yahya Sinwar can do to divide Israeli society into bitterly opposed camps, which is very good for him, right? That's not good for the Israelis. That's good for Yahya Sinwar. So the best he can do is he can pretend to enter negotiations, and in the middle of those negotiations, kill some hostages. And that will make the opposing camps become even more bitterly opposed. So Yahya Sinwar is having success so far in moving Israelis closer to a civil war, which is, of course, what was going on right before October 7th happened. And I think in that particular juncture, I think Hamas miscalculated. They thought that the October 7th attack would tip Israelis into a civil war, and then they would be invaded by everybody. This is why they were so upset. Nobody else attacked. Right, because I think the plan was, we'll massacre. I don't think they meant to have such a gigantic attack. I think they meant to massacre a few Israelis, take a lot of hostages, right? But not kill 1,200 people. I don't think that was the plan. I think these monsters just went out of control. It was too easy to kill Jews, and they couldn't stop themselves, right? And so the effect of the gigantic slaughter, genocidal slaughter, was that it unified Israelis. It had the opposite effect. But now Yahya Sinwar is fixing his mistake. Now he's adapting. He's realizing what he needs to do. And he is once again producing the kind of moves that may eventually result in an Israeli civil war, which of course would mean the destruction of Israel. So anybody cooperating with this policy of Yahya Sinwar's, is collaborating with the enemy. Entering negotiations is precisely that. If you really care about protecting Israelis, instead of collaborating with Hamas, the first thing you would do is you would take the Egypt-Gaza border. I mean, why? It's the last thing they did. There were 150 tunnels just in the Philadelphia corridor joining Egypt to Gaza. So not taking the Egypt-Gaza border is collaborating